This video is about using a table to solve a system of equations. So we're going to use the table to solve the following system of equations. We have x plus y equals 9 and 2x minus 3y equals 8. So when we solve using a table, we're always going to have three columns. The first two columns are always going to represent our first equation, and then we're going to test those values in the second equation to get that third column. So the first column of this table is already filled out for you. We want x plus y to equal 9. So we went with all the numbers that we could use for x to add to 9. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now for y, we need to fill in those values. So if we look at the equation x plus y equals 9, if x is already 0, then we know that y would have to be 9 because 0 plus 9 is 9. If x is 1, y would have to be 8 because that would add to 9. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So any row that I pick in the table has to equal 9 for that first equation. Then we're going to test which points work into that second equation. So we're going to use 2 times the x value minus 3 times the y value to equal 8. So we can either do this by hand or we can use our calculator to help us. So in the first one, we would have 2 times 0 minus 3 times 9. So I could do that by hand or in my head, or I could do it in my calculator. So 2 times 0 minus 3 times 9 is equal to negative 27. We wanted it to equal 8, so we know that one can't be our solution. So we're going to continue going down the table. So the next one we would have is 2 times 1 minus 3 times 8. I can put that in my calculator. 2 times 1 minus 3 times 8. And I get negative 22. So I'm getting closer, but I'm not close enough yet. Now, when you're solving by table, you can just keep going row by row by row by row, or you can kind of skip around and use a little guess and check here. So I'm going to skip down about 2 rows just because I see negative 22. This hasn't really gotten me to a positive number yet. So I'm going to skip down a couple of rows. I'm going to try the row that has 4 or 5 for my x and y. So I would have 2 times 4 minus 3 times 5. I don't need to write the work in the box. I can just put it in my calculator and see what answer I get. And I'm at negative 7. So I'm closer, but I'm still not in the positive number. So I'm going to skip another row, and I'm going to try the row that is 6, 3. So I would have 2 times 6 minus 3 times 3. That gets me 3. So I'm really close now. I'm going to try the next row. So now I have 2 times 7 minus 3 times 2. And I finally got the answer I was looking for 8. So that means these 2 points are the solution. Whenever you find a solution to your system of equations, you then need to write it as an ordered pair. So our solution in this case would be 7, 2. If it's just x, y, remember, write it in coordinate pairs. Remember that our x and y comes first. If it's different letters, I always write the ordered pair in alphabetical order then. So let's try using this method with word problems. So number 2, Chris and George have been hired to work a total of 11 hours that will pay $225 for their services. Chris makes $15 per hour and George makes $25 per hour. How many hours did Chris and George work? So first, let's identify our variables. So we know we have 2 people working. So we're going to say that we have C for the Chris hours. And we have G for George's hours. Now, in this problem, we saw that they work a total of 11 hours and are paid $225 in total. So we know that when their hours are added together, it has to equal 11. So we have C plus G equals 11. That's going to represent that first 2 columns in our table. The last column then, we want to figure out how it's going to equal $225. So we know that Chris makes $15, so we have 15C plus 25G, because we're going to take their hours and multiply by their pay to get the total amount that's going to be paid. So in our first column, we already have the numbers 0 through 11, and we have, let's call this C, so our next column is G. So to fill in the rest of this column, I know that if Chris is working 0 hours and they work a total of 11, George would be 11. If Chris worked one of those hours, then George would work 10. If Chris worked 2, George would equal 9, and we can keep going all the way down this list. Okay, and you know that you put the numbers in the right spot if all of them in the row add up to 11. Now we're going to find exactly how many hours each of them work. So we know that we have the equation 15c plus 25g, and it needs to equal $225. So this is where I'm going to use my calculator again to figure out what my solution is. So for the first point, I have 15 times 0 plus 25 times 11. So when I put that into the calculator, 15 times 0 plus 25 times 11, I get $275. And I know that they only made $225, so I have to keep going until I find my answer. So the next row then, we have 15 times 1 plus 25 times 10. And I get $265. So now a couple of things can happen. You can see the pattern that they're all changing by $10 and just fill in that third column. You can skip around a little bit to figure out your next one. So I'm going to skip down, let's say 3 rows. I'm going to go to 4, 7 and see where I'm at. So if I have 15 times 4 hours plus 25 times 7 hours, I get $235. So I'm really close. I'm going to try that next row. 15 times 5 plus 25 times 6, and I got 225, which is that value I was looking for. So my solution here then would be 5, 6. Remember, these are not x, y, so I go in alphabetical order. C comes first. What does 5, 6 mean? So because it's a story problem, we then want to write a sentence about what these numbers represent. So we would say, Chris is working 5 hours, and George is working 6 hours. All right, so let's try another one where we're using a table to solve. So the sum of two positive numbers is 18. 2 times the large number minus the small number is 24. What are the two numbers? So we have two numbers here. We have large and small. So let's say that L is for large number and S is for the small number. It told us two sentences. The first one tells us that the sum is 18. So remember, sum is addition. So we have L plus S equals 18. And then our second sentence, 2 times the large number minus the small number is 24. So we have is 24, that equals 24. 2 times the large number, so 2s, or 2l, because it's a large number, minus the small number, so minus s equals 24. Now, this time, notice that our table doesn't have enough spots to go 0 to 18. But when we think about it, the large number has to be bigger than the small number. So we're going to start for the large number with 18, because that's the biggest number that it could be. So we have 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 12, 11, 10, 9. Then we have our small number. So remember that these two numbers together have to equal 18. So if the large number is 18, the small number would be 0. If the large number was 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, we don't need anything lower than that because the large number has to be bigger than the smaller number. That's how we get a large and a small number. So remember that the other equation is 2L minus S equals 24. So if we have 2 times the large number minus the small number, we can figure out what's going to equal 24. So when I do this one, 2 times 18 minus 0 is 36. When I do the next one, 2 times 17 minus 1 is 33. So if you see a pattern, you can just start filling in your numbers. If not, you can keep going row by row, or you can skip. So I'm just going to keep going row by row for now. So 2 times 16 minus 2 is 30. Next row, 2 times 15 minus 3 is 27. Next row, 2 times 14 minus 4 gets us 24. Remember, 24 was the number we were looking for. So our solution is 14, 4, because we're going in alphabetical order again. So 14, 4. What does that mean? That means the large number is 14, and the small number is 4. Remember, with a word problem, you always need to show your solution as an ordered pair, and you must always write a sentence.